Hi, my name is Simon Hedley, known to my clients and partners as a strategic alchemist and an ultimate connector. I'm a chartered accountant who brings together and bridges the worlds of business philosophy, finance, marketing, optimization, ontology, and so much more. Always focused on one thing, the simple idea that can make the difference to people and projects so we can tip the scales in their favor and get them complete. Pause, Stop, Reset is all about the three little words that can make the difference. They have for me and my clients, and I hope they will for you too. During the show, you'll get to learn about my guests' real-life experiences and the insights and lessons they've learned as they've navigated the resets in their personal and business lives, which you'll be able to leverage yourself. So let's start the show. Welcome to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. My name's Simon Hedley, and today I'm joined by Sir Marco Robinson. He's had an almost unbelievable life, from being a homeless child and teenager to turning around a company and helping generate over $1 billion. He's written books, been on TV, made award-winning movies, and so much more, all the while keeping a focus on helping people and making a difference, with his message that you were born to be a hero. There's so much more to get to know about this man. Without further ado, Marco, welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm really well. I know we've got a window to share today, and I think the best place to start is, for people that don't know you very well, haven't met you before, who are you and what are you focused on today?
Who am I? Well, it's a difficult question, that, because there's so much to say. But basically now, in my life, I am an entrepreneur. And mostly I'm a business coach, so I consult to people that are starting a business or have got a business, they want to grow it. I'm also a filmmaker. I am an artist. I'm a singer and actor. All those things are going on in my life right now. Yeah.
Wow. As we say, this multifaceted life we live today, right? Not just I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant. Obviously, you've been through many shifts and resets, but if you look back on your life, what's the biggest ones that you're present to? The moments where you had to do a big reset, a big rearrangement of who you are and what you were focused on?
Well, I think I've done that all through my life. You know, since I was a child, from being homeless in a very traumatic environment where there was a lot of domestic violence, there was a lot of sexual abuse, with my mum was sexually abused by a stepdad. So there's been always change, massive change through my life. And the reason for that change initially was because my mum needed to escape to survive, you know. So those kind of changes were forced rather than kind of desired. And then she got into better places for me and for her, but then of course it got worse and we had to change again, move again, and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really in control of that at that stage. The only time where I felt I had some kind of autonomy was when I was 15 and I decided I didn't want to stay at school, because school for me was just not productive. It wasn't enjoyable. And it wasn't, I thought I was stupid, basically, because I wasn't academically inclined. Later on, I found out I'm ADHD, I'm autistic, all this kind of stuff. Then I had no idea what was going on. So you kind of think to yourself, well, all these other kids are doing really well, and I'm not doing very well. I'm doing the same thing. So I decided to leave school at 15, and that was the time where my mum met a new guy that she's still with today. It's a happy ending. But I said to her, I said, listen, you need to be happy. I need to find myself. So I went into the local town and I went around the shops and I asked them if I could clean their floors for £1 an hour at that time. That was like in, 1985 or something. Most of them said no, but some of them said yes. So that was my first entrepreneurial kind of outreach, if you like. And then I started cleaning floors for £1 an hour, and I used to sleep in the cellar or the roof of the shop. I was actually doing that in Woolworths for quite a while. And that was my escape, I guess. That was my world. I built a world for me by cleaning floors, and I got better and better at cleaning floors. But eventually I kind of outgrew that, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I went into retail, selling clothes in a clothes shop, which I quite enjoyed, but the salary was only £50 a week, so I wasn't able to do anything much with that. And then I was asked to work in direct sales in timeshare in 1989. And for me, that was risky because I was getting a salary. But I decided to do it because I didn't want to be in my hometown anymore. I didn't want to be there. I'd outgrew that. So I decided I needed to change. So I went to do that. I was very unsuccessful doing that because I wasn't very confident. I didn't have many social skills, especially talking to people and communicating. So because I was so bad at that, I was the worst salesperson in the company. Right. Never had. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even do this now. Why don't I go back cleaning? That was my internal narrative. But then one day, the boss said, listen, if you don't sell in the next couple of days, we're going to have to fire you. We just can't keep you. And that was the kind of trigger for me to pivot my mindset internally to another question, which was, how can I be successful? And that question, it came to me because of the fear of not going to the next level and going backwards.
Yeah.
And when I started asking that question, really asking it with power, things changed around me. And when I went to the office the next day, the top salesperson came to me and said, listen, you don't know me, but I know you. And I know you think you're going to get fired, but actually you can turn this around because I see a lot of you in me and I used to be like you.
Wow.
And I said, there's no way that you used to be like you. He said, yes, there is. I used to be homeless. I didn't sell. I was the worst salesperson. And someone helped me and they said, pay it forward. So I want to help you. And I was like blown away. And he said, the first thing I want to do for you is I want you to read a book that really helped me discover my potential in my mind. And he said, I want you to go home and read that and don't stop reading it until you get the lesson. So I read it 8 times, didn't go to sleep. But on the 8th time of reading it, I got the lesson. And within me, internally, I shifted where I started to say, you know what? I can do this. I started to believe in myself. And I went to that job the following day and I sold my first sale. And I had this so much conviction within me. I said to them, I said, listen, you are definitely going to buy this product today. It's amazing. You're going to sit there for 5 hours. You're going to love it. And you're going to get your credit card out and pay me £10,000 at the end of it. And they said, no, we're not. No, we're not. And 5 hours went by. And at the end of it, he sat there, didn't say a word, got his wallet out, gave me his credit card, said, there's £10,000. You were right. This is amazing. We want to buy it. And my reaction was, oh my God, why did you buy from me? Because that was my first success, really.
Yeah.
And they said, this is your first sale? I said, yes, my first sale. I said, well, we can't believe it. So the reason that we bought from you is because you transferred your belief to us.
Yeah.
And once we believed it, we wanted it, you know. And that was probably the deepest, greatest lesson that I learned in my life. And as soon as I got that, everything just went like that. Completely changed my life. So that was the first part, if you like.
Wow. Well, a lot of resets, a lot of shifts there. I obviously the listener's going to go, what was the book, Marco? What was the book?
Yeah, people always ask me that. But please remember, in context, it was the right book at the right time.
Exactly. It's always the right book at the right time. It's never like that's the answer. It's that contextual stuff.
Exactly. So the book was called Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind.
Not one I've heard of, actually, interestingly.
It's an old book. It was written by a magician in the 1950s, an English magician.
Wow.
But amazing book, yeah.
I love that bit that you had somebody unexpectedly go, look, I can help, go do this. And then the key I'm hearing for our listeners and for all of us is you took action on it, right? There's the other version of the story where you go, yeah, no, and don't read the book and things carry on. But you took the action, actually applied that yourself, that sort of hand up, not hand out conversation.
Yeah, it was a situation where, since I learned after, there's only two things that really get you to take action. One is desperation, one is inspiration.
Yeah.
Right. And that particular time, I was in a desperate state. I had no money, I had debts. I had to do something or go backwards, like you said, you know.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I like to distinguish these 3 things: taking a pause, taking that breath and coming back to stuff, stopping where you go never again, and that reset where you sort of go brand new thing. Which of those do you find hardest, and why do you think that is?
I think the hardest thing is understanding and realizing that you have so much power. But when you're pausing and nothing's happening, you're thinking, this is not working. But actually, the pause and the reset is the most important part. The stopping and the resting and rethinking and recalibrating and renewing, if you like, and relearning is the most important part. And once you place value on the relearning part, then you start to enjoy the learning because you know it's going to get to a different place.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think many of us resonate with that. Like there's a theory of it, then there's doing it, especially when you've got a lot going on in life, it can get busy. Obviously, you've sort of grown a lot from that younger self. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but if you could send back like one lesson today, right, to that younger you, whether it's 10 or 12 or 15, what's the thing you wish you could tell that younger Marco?
Yeah, and I do get asked that quite a bit. It's a good question. I would say, obviously, believe in yourself. You're going to do amazing things, but just focus on what you want. That would be it.
Yeah, that thing of focusing on what you want to go and not the past is such a simple thing, but hard to apply. I'm curious. I don't normally ask this, but you know yourself well. How do you think the younger Marco would have responded to that? Do you think he'd have gone, "I got it," or gone, "Yeah, thanks"? And
I don't know because I was just a different person and I had no confidence. I had no confidence, and I was, in a trauma kind of environment. So I guess if I believed the source, right, I would have done it. Yeah. Younger Marco would have done it.
Yeah. And the reason I ask, especially at the moment, there's so much turbulence here in the UK and around the world. And there's this gap where, from the 1980s to now, there's so much more resources. Yeah. And still everybody is in this, many people in this challenging space of how to navigate, whether it's things really aren't working or they've kind of been going okay, but most people aren't like 10 out of 10, life is awesome. They haven't got that reset skill optimized themselves with everything that's happened. So I appreciate that. And it is that belief that you touch on that's so vital. That's really interesting. Obviously, you've made books and movies. You're in that space. Are there any books and movies that have made a big impact to you that you turn back to again and again? Or
yeah, I mean, I have a reading list of books, and there are always new ones coming. So one book that I'm reading right now is called "Be Your Future Self Now" by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Amazing book. And one of the things I learned is that you actually learn faster when you actually have the audio book and read the same book. So I'm learning a lot faster. I'm learning like 3 times faster than I would do if I just read the book. But that book is about knowing who your future self is, knowing how big that person is and who you want to be, and focusing on that goal and that purpose, because that's the childlike quality that you become because you've got something to look forward to, rather than focusing on the past where you've got regret, you've got mistakes, etc., or even in the present. Yes, you've got to focus on the present to do things, but you've got to focus on that person that you're going to be. And that's the key to really doing things.
I've never heard that before said so cleanly. So you're reading the book while listening to it simultaneously?
No, I'm listening and reading it separately.
Got it. Okay, so not simultaneously. It's listening to the book and then read the book. And you sort of go chapter by chapter, or just whole way through?
Yeah, well, it depends. I might do chapter by chapter. I might do all the way through, rewind
how you feel and just immersing in it. No, really interesting. And especially with modern tech and AI, it's easier now to get those audiobooks. It's always a big thing when the author reads their own work, because you hear it the way they intend it, not how you think they're saying it. And do you also read the same things a couple of times? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you've got the sort of lifelong learner in you, like serious students, as Jim Rohn would say. There's like a serious commitment there, which is a big thing.
Yeah, and I think, I only valued that when I reached 21, because before that I hated learning, because I hated school. I hated the institution of education.
Yeah.
Because it came with so much pain and so much loss that for me it wasn't something that I valued because of that. But once I realized it was going to help me, then I became a lifelong learner. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of the big debates at the moment is how do we create a more entrepreneurial education system that's really supportive and not the guru version, not the do what I say sort of cookie clones, really create that space of real mentors helping, while at the same time, you and I know life is never linear. There's that sort of up, down roller coaster successes that sort of confuse the younger mind. It's like great revenues, but actually loss-making company. All right, so I'm yabbering on a bit there. One of the things I'm really always curious about is when you go through those big reset moments, what helped you through it? Obviously, you've been through some really harrowing times as a child and obviously other things in life. But what helped you through those moments? What helped you navigate and keep going?
One of the biggest things that helped me was sports and nature, right? And it still does now, because when I go for a walk into nature or I run in nature, it's the most healing power there is on the planet. And it completely heals me. It protects me from all foes and adversities, right? And it puts everything in perspective, that everything is so beautiful, everything is here and now, and everything's there when you want it. So that's the greatest thing that I've ever done for me in terms of that question.
And do you tend to go local, or you sort of get on a train and go to the Lake District? Like, what's your?
No, I run locally in the Peak District. I go to the gym quite a few times a week, and I travel quite a bit. You know, I'm going to Italy this week. I'm going somewhere at least once every 2 weeks. You know,
You're at home in the Peak District with the hills and the mountains and the vistas and the views and that perspective. It's so vital. We get caught up in the office on the Zoom screen, and our brains get very like this and forget there's a really big world out there. It's huge, right? And that's really interesting. Some of the people listening to the show are in a really bad place. Others are doing good, but usually they're looking sort of to grow and scale and reset. What would be your biggest suggestion for them?
Well, I have to say that you have to know what you want. You have to find someone that's got what you want and learn from them directly through their books, teaching, seminars, whatever it may be. One of the biggest hacks that I've learned is really investing in programs from people that have actually achieved what I want to achieve, and they're actually in the arena.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that you learn from are not in the arena, so it's academic learning. But when you can learn from people actually in the arena with all, you know, they're actually still fighting, they've got dust all over their face and stuff like that, and they're winning, that's the biggest power shift in terms of how fast it's going to happen for you.
I like that. And obviously you're been around the block, as we say. How do they determine somebody that's really there, not just saying they're there? Does that make sense? I'm sort of keeping it light for the conversation here in the UK, and like today, the line of a website and a photo is very easy to fake, and it's a space where nobody really calls out the crazy, because that's not how the game gets played, seemingly. So how do they pick somebody that they go, that guy is in the arena and living it, not just a good marketing sales guy? Nothing wrong with that, but
yeah. So obviously you can. It's so easy now because you can go online and find these people, and it's not difficult to find them.
Yeah.
You just type in what you want, and then all these things come up, and you study and research, and you research and you find people that you can work with. And I do that all the time. I mean, I've always got coaches, and once I get that to that level, I go to the next coach and the next thing I need to learn. Yeah,
I hear that discernment then. That's really useful. Underneath you, I hear a big message and belief and vision about what you want. And I love that. Often recently, we've been finding people that really go, I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
They're in that lost place. Any tips on that from your sort of...
Yeah, I do have a great tip for that. A lot of people are confused. They don't know what they want. Well, the best thing you can do is work on yourself. Right? And to work on yourself, you have to cultivate an adventurous and exploratory mind. And one way you can do that is just having different experiences. Travel is a fantastic thing to use as an asset. And when people say to me, well, they don't have enough money to travel, well, work and travel. There's never been a better time to travel, because literally you can stay and you can look after people's dogs in their houses and they pay you. So
I'm boggling that one. Thousands of pounds a week to be a dog sitter in fancy mansions around the world. It's the whole thing. It's like...
It's a thing. It's a huge thing.
It is, yeah.
And you can go and take a tent with you so there's so many things you can do with travel. And the great thing about travel right now in the world, there are so many countries opening up to travelers to be entrepreneurs. They're giving you visas. You can stay cheap. They're even giving grants. There's so many things you can do, but people, because they don't believe in themselves, they don't believe it. So they don't connect with that. And, like I said, you've got to work on your own mindset. You've got to work internally You've got to educate yourself and becoming stronger and stronger. And then you're going to find out what you want to do, because sometimes you need to experience something before you know you want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. We always say you can't order the thing on the menu that's not there, right? If you haven't had it, haven't explored it, you don't know even to think about and ask it. And people get stuck in sort of the A to B of life, this whole other thing out there that often today didn't even exist, right? What you and I are doing was not a thing when you and I were in our kids' stage, in our teenagers' stage. It's fascinating how quick life is changing. Often I like to think about, they're at their day job tomorrow, they're in the pub at the weekend, and they're like, I heard that podcast with Sir Marco Robinson. What's the one thing you want to be left with?
I think that the greatest resource you have is your resourcefulness. And to realize that anything you want is within you. You just have to go out and get it. No one's going to come and save you. No one's going to come and do it for you. You have to take responsibility, and you have to understand that no one is better than you. No one is worse than you. And the only results in life are down to the actions that you take. That's it.
I love that. And it reminds me of one of the billionaires we know who had his son over, and he was meeting a really world famous artist. And that was his thing that he's been teaching his son in like for the last 2-3 years, to not be in that person's there, I'm not. Especially in the art world, it's very much the acclaimed artist and this sort of strange ego positioning, but actually having that real conversation and getting through the noise.
Yeah.
It's an internal prison, not elsewhere. So I love that. While at the same time acknowledging some people are incredible at what they do, but we're all have that divine spark. We all have that ability to grow and learn. And one of my old mentors used to say, everybody puts their trousers on one leg at a time kind of thing, right? We're all
exactly.
Game life eventually. You've been an amazing inspiration to many people, Mark, and I know many listening through will get that from how calmly you talk about your past to where you are. We didn't even get into really how you helped that company turn over and go from there to the billions in revenue. Are there any people you'd love to sort of listen to their version of this conversation? Any guests that you go, I'd really love to know how they navigated life?
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, of course, Elon Musk is one of my favorite characters. So the way that he thinks, the way that people, always what's fascinating to me is how people think of ideas, then execute them, and then move on to the next thing. People that do that are just incredible. And once you can decode how they do it, it's, extremely helpful for you to understand how it works. But a lot of that is subjective, depending on what people actually want and how far they're prepared to go to get it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And Elon's sort of on our list. Friends know, I don't know him personally yet, but I know that he has this ability to be extremely focused and driven on stuff that most of us would go, let's not go there. It's like, climb Everest, all that hill, the hill's fine. He's had this ability to keep going at a level that most people would not bother. At a certain point, you go, I've got my comfort zone now, that's enough. For decades, it's really quite extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, since he was a kid, he had a proclivity for coding. He got into that and he just wanted to do it, and he just explored and used his imagination. And I think what a lot of people kind of forget is actually how they were as a child. When we think how what we were like as children, we used to put a cardboard box on our head and we were an astronaut and we believed it.
Right? Go play and believe, yeah.
So that is lacking, sadly. That is massively lacking. And I think with today's world, so many distractions, Gen Z want everything instantly because they believe it is instant online and it's not. And then they get depressed. And this is why there's the highest rate of suicide right now. It's a lot of the reason,
No, and it's a very interesting time of, as you and I know, most of these YouTube shows, they're monetized by advertising, but there's a certain bit of creating to create. And actually there's nothing really generating on the back end. So it's kind of weird when you see a 9-year-old kid go, my dream's to be a YouTuber. And it's like, okay, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
They see it not understanding the art, the craft, the other bits and pieces, or what has become the attention grabbing is a bit surreal. And I think we are in a very strange time. And maybe that's always been the case. That's a big debate out there for teachers and parents, and that how do we educate collectively, collaboratively, and especially, again, we'll go heavy today for the show, but with what's happening in the UK this week, it's really quite odd how much we're getting divisive again, while at the same time we're all really, the Olympics is about coming together, and other places are getting really broken up. Any wisdom to any parents out there going through that at all?
Well, I think there's a lot more to it than that aspect. And a lot of that is because of the cost of living crisis has got to such a level where people are resorting to rioting. People are resorting to demonstrating because they've realized that any government is just a bunch of psychopaths controlled by a bunch of psychopaths who have no regard or any kind of understanding what it's like for the average person to live and the costs they have to pay. Even politicians get a second home allowance, second home heating, all this kind of stuff paid for. And all the deals they make in terms of the corrupt side of politics, which is massive. You know, I think it's going to get worse because once the cost of living goes, it's going to increase even more. When we're not in control, the only way that's going to change is by a revolutionary critical mass of people say, we've had enough of this.
Yeah.
And it's touching that now because they realise that Labour is the same as Conservative. Conservative is the same as Lib Dems. It's the same all over the world. They're not serving you anymore. After the Second World War, the government was for you.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's kind of against you. They don't want you to succeed. They want to put so many rules in place that you have to follow their rules. And if you think who's pulling the strings, it's normally the guy from Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. It's not who you think it is.
Yeah. No, it's definitely challenging. We hope these shows, these ideas, and the people who point it like yourself, they find somebody they can align to and go, I like that guy. I want to go learn from himself. And that's a pretty good place to wrap up at the moment. People listening in want to find out more about what you do, who you are, and how they can engage with your books, coaches, programs, etc. What's the best way for them to connect with you, sir?
Really simple. Just follow my Instagram account, Marco Robinson Now.
Nice. Marco Robinson Now on Instagram.
Reach out to me and I'll see you there.
I think there's much more to get into over time. I look forward to that. And I'm really grateful people like you are out there shifting that narrative of what's possible, that victim mentality. When you have people break the sort of, you know, I was like this happened, then you don't have, not the excuse, but you start to, that is a possibility. That could be your life and those steps forward. So I want to thank you for being with us today for the show. I really appreciate the sort of how you've been being, how honest and real about it. And personally, what I find most valuable is that real passion about get clear what you want, find who's already got there, and then go learn and work with them. It's a vital thing. And that reminder that we can always go traveling in different creative ways. So thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed the show, please head up to Apple Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, give us 5 stars, and then comment on what you heard, take some action on. And do check out Mark on Instagram, Marco Robinson Now. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Once again, I'm Simon Hedley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset, which is brought to you by the team at simonx.com and published by thesimpleidea.com. So you get maximum value and to access all the bonuses and gifts, make sure to head to pause.reset.com, register and explore the portal. And if you're looking for great people, check out onesmartnetwork.com. If you've enjoyed the show, do give us a positive review, subscribe, and share this episode with friends. I can't wait to share our next episode with you. Till then, remember you can always choose to pause, stop, reset.